something is wrong with me. And I remember, without getting into too much details, I was at work talking to a couple women that I trust, and they know me well enough, and they're like, something's wrong. And I broke down and I was sobbing because at this point I was over it. Hey y'all, this is your girl Nadia.
This is me, Coach T.
We are going to talk about something that was a time in our lives that was really hard. So I have some notes here. So if you see me looking off, I had to jot some things down because it was so much that happened during this time. And so I had to make sure that I write it down. So let me apologize in advance if I get emotional or if, you notice me not being my sprightly self, but it's just because this is near and dear to my heart. And so we're going to talk a little bit about anxiety. Okay, I'm going to start by reading you guys a story. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to read the parts that I feel like I sort of experience as well. Okay? I feel like I'm dying, on the brink of death, every day of my life. A struggle with my own mind and body. My mind tells my body that it is ill when in fact it is not. I have had several tests done and even had them done again. They all came back normal, so why am I feeling this way? Physical symptoms that do not make any sense. Symptoms that make me want to stay in bed curled up in a ball. I feel like I cannot breathe, like I cannot get a good breath in, like my throat is swollen and achy, like my nose is swollen and stuffy, like my body is telling me not to breathe. I feel like I am making myself take those breaths that are supposed to be done without thinking. Thoughts that make you feel like you're just a ghost overlooking your own life. I feel like I am not real. Everything is not real. It just feels like life is just passing by. I look at everyone around me and wish that I could just feel good like them. I can't remember a time that I was happy or felt good, so I just cry. I cry because I'm frustrated. I try to tell myself that I will feel better when I wake up in the mornings, and it never happens. I try to talk to myself and heal myself, but it just isn't helping or working. I repeat to myself that I am okay multiple times a day. Like you have no purpose and that you are sitting and waiting to die and the time goes by so damn slow. It's the weirdest feeling. I am staying mostly for my family. You try to explain what is happening to people and they get frustrated and give up on you, or you can't talk to them about what you're going through. You try to explain to anyone and they just say, just get over it, or it's all in your head, because it is indeed all in my head. I cannot get out of my head. My mind goes 100 miles an hour constantly, never shuts down. Every little pain or every little thing that happens to my body, I feel as if I'm dying. I hate it. I wish it would just stop. So that's a story that I read of someone else. A lot of what I read was similar to a lot of the thoughts that went on in my head at this time. And I'm talking about anxiety. So let me start off by saying I was never really clinically diagnosed with anxiety, but I'll go through a little brief history on when it all started, some of the things that I've experienced during that time, and how it affected our relationship. I remember really starting to have some sort of anxiety after I had London, right? I was about 30 years old. You go through till we got married, we had London, and I was anxious about everything when it came to her. But I thought it was, like some of the natural progression of having a baby. You get anxious, right? And it goes away, or you learn to deal with it. But more importantly, I was so focused on her, right? And what our new life looked like with the child that, you just kind of overlook that anxiety that you feel. Fast forward probably 4 years later, I was sitting in a car I think I had gone to the gym. I was just making errands, and I was sitting at a traffic light, and something came over me. It was like an epiphany, and it was like, oh shit, I'm gonna die one day. Right. Okay. So I'm 34, right, y'all? So obviously I knew that I was going to die, but I never really, until that moment, I remember that moment vividly, thought about it that deeply. It came over me. And so I started to question my purpose. I started to question, well, what was everything that I did? What is everything that I'm going to do if I can't change the inevitable, right? And I was just started trying to make sense with everything. It put me in a really, really dark place for many, many years. In between me trying to process, 4 years ago having a baby to having this epiphany, a lot of things happened with Tabari's dad, trying to work through those things, and then my mom working through that. We had done 2 moves within a matter of a year, and trying to get our daughter ready for school, as well as keeping some sort of normalcy for her as we're trying to go through these things with these other people. And now she's young, she's 4 or 5, she doesn't really understand what's going on. And so that was all happening while I was trying to deal with this anxiety that was creeping in. So keep a long story short, fast forward now to we're probably at the top of the pandemic, right? So much has changed for all of us during the pandemic. And the pandemic for us, we really shut down in March 2020. And I remember in April 2020, I started having these chest pains. And it was like, wait, what? Obviously, I'm like, oh, I must have COVID, because why else am I having these random chest pains that I've never felt before?
That was a hard part. Right? We didn't know much about COVID.
We didn't know much about, right. We were still trying to figure it out. And obviously, I don't want to go to the doctor or the emergency room because there's COVID. I don't want to, if I don't have it, I don't want to go get it now.
Definitely not trying to go get it.
And so, I talked to a few people, and finally I was like, okay, I can't take this anymore. I need to go, because I don't want there to be something wrong and I miss it. And so I was in and out of the ER. I probably went like 2 or 3 times. They were like, everything is fine. Like my chest x-rays were normal. All my lab work was, pristine. Everything was just fine. But I'm still struggling with this chest pain. Finally, I think the last time I went in, they gave me a medication for ulcers. And I'm like, I'm not taking this. I don't have ulcers, right? This is ridiculous. I'm not doing this. And I was talking to a friend of the family's who's a doctor, and she was like, you need to take this medication. And I said, okay, let me take it, and I felt better. Okay, fast forward. So now I'm taking this medication for ulcer that's making me feel better. So I must have an ulcer. So I go in, I see a GI doctor, they were like, if it is an ulcer, we need to do further testing to see the cause and all of these things. And again, we're at the place where I don't want to do an endoscopy to confirm, because I have to take my mask off. This is COVID, right? And so long story short, I ended up getting an endoscopy. Shortly after my endoscopy, I started having what we call PVCs, premature ventricular contractions. So what it felt, I didn't know what they were at the time, but what it felt like was that my heart was like skipping a beat or making an extra beat. And I even let Tabari hear it one night, because I'm like, am I crazy? Like, because I feel this. And he heard it, I heard it, and I was like, okay, now my heart's all jacked up.
I think we even saw it on the heart rate monitor.
Yes. Well, I ended up going to the ER because I'm like, something is wrong. My heart is doing some weird. So I ended up going to the ER, and they saw it on the monitor and told me what it was, and that's how I knew it was PVC. And they're like, totally benign. This is common. Just lay off the caffeine, lay off the alcohol, manage your stress, should go away. Also follow up with a cardiologist. So now at this point, I'm seeing a GI doctor, a cardiologist, right?
And taking a COVID test for every
every 5 seconds, because what is wrong with me? So I'm at the point now where I'm dealing with death and dying. I'm trying to be a wife and a mom, right? I have these an ulcer as far as I'm concerned. Now I have PVCs, and I still have all the stress and anxiety that I've built up until this time, right? I got diagnosed with what we call EOE through the GI doctor, which is eosinophilic esophagitis. Essentially, there's allergens that are in my esophagus, right? Usually it's caused by food, but I wasn't eating anything or making me feel any different. I thought maybe dairy or, So I had the EOE diagnosis. I was having PVCs. I was trying to maintain a normal life for my family, and all of this was happening at the same time. Talk about stress, y'all, okay? Stress. In between there were little symptoms that were coming up. Like beside the PVCs, I'd feel little random chest pains, or this would ache. I remember one time I was feeling shooting in my leg, and I would talk to people about it. Of course, went to him first, and everybody would say, I really think you're having anxiety. And I'm like, no, it's not anxiety. Something is wrong with me. Something is wrong with me. And I remember, without getting into too much details or putting people out there, I remember I was at work talking to a couple women that I trust, and they know me well enough, and they're like, something's wrong. And I broke down and I was sobbing because at this point I was over it. Like, I'm feeling all these things, all of these symptoms are happening to me. I don't know what's going on. And they said the magic word of, I think you're having anxiety. And I'm like, God dang it, this is not anxiety. Something is wrong with me. Like, guys don't get it. I know something is wrong with me. Anxiety can't make me feel all these things. I've never felt these things before. But they were like, you need to talk to someone and, start there. So I started therapy, and that started to help. I started looking into, I didn't really want to go on medication, so I started looking into different supplements, and I can talk about those later. I can leave some information for you guys if you're struggling with anxiety. That really helped me. But different supplements to kind of work through this, exercising and doing all of the things, the cliche things that people tell you to do that I didn't want to hear when I was dealing with anxiety. Oh, you should exercise, or you should eat better, or drink lots of water. No. Something is wrong with me. Why can't you hear me? Something is wrong with me. That is the really, really shortened version. All of this led me to a really hard place, and I started having panic attacks. And if you've never had a panic attack, I can't tell you, but the worst one, I felt like I was going to die. And I actually had a doctor's appointment that day, went to the doctor. He had to take me because I literally thought I was going to die. And my blood pressure was something ridiculous, like 160 over 100, and by the time I was done, and I had calmed down, I was sitting down. By the time I was done and calmed down, it was back to normal. And this is when the doctor was like, this is anxiety. Again, on top of all the people, no, this is anxiety. Here's the things that we can do. And so I bring all of this up because I wanted to talk about our experience. Especially, I want to ask him, describe your experience in helping me deal with this anxiety. What would you say it was like for you? Because I can't imagine that it was any kind of easy.
Well, no. No. But I'll say this, and I want to say this because I know a lot of men fall into this category as well. The part that wasn't easy was having empathy for it, because I, at that point, didn't suffer with anxiety. I just happened to be aware enough to understand intellectually that it could be a real problem. But understanding something intellectually very rarely breeds empathy. So that was the hard part, because I didn't know what was support and what was just annoying.
Yeah.
here's more tears. And if you know me, the crying is like...
He doesn't do crying. And trust me, y'all, it was a lot of tears. It was a lot of tears. I mean, it got to the, not to, don't forget
No,
what
it's
I
okay.
said, but it
It's
got
all right.
to the point where I said, you know what, baby, I think you should just kind of go head on with your life because I don't want to stop your life. I'm not at a place right now that I can go through the motions of going to work and cooking dinner and doing all the things, but I am stuck in this place of whatever, and I don't want to keep you back. You have all these dreams, and I did at one point, but again, I was questioning all these. You had all these dreams and goals, and I didn't want to hold you back. So I was at the point where I was like, you might just have to go do you. I don't know how he took that, whether he took that as divorce or, okay, you'll be in the background, but I'm going to go ahead.
I'm not that fragile.
I don't know how he took that, but for me, I knew I was in a place where I was like, this is not, I can't move forward. I just feel stuck in this place.
I mean, yeah. I mean, part of the other reason that made it more difficult for me, other than trying to like manage and find the empathy in it, was to just be willing to follow the process, because that process meant that my needs had to just wait. I was having to deal with what it looks like for me to have to wait on my needs being met while meeting her needs at the same time. Meaning, this is going to be one of those times when I'm going to just have to take care of her and be okay that she's okay. Because anything that I needed was just always a ways away. It did allow me to do a few things which I appreciated. One, because I had to go seek empathy, I had to kind of relate my experiences to kind of what you were experiencing. And then I remembered that, right before London was born, I had my own panic attack. And I remember feeling like I was going to die. And I remember being able to say, that was terrible. And if she's saying that she feels this all the time,
non-stop.
That couldn't possibly be fun. So whatever it takes to make sure that she doesn't have to feel this, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. That's kind of where I was. So once I was able to relate it back to something that I could actually feel, then it was like, okay, now we can get into a place of real empathy, because I've only had a little bit of it, and this is what it feels like. Also, in dealing with my parents, I've had a great deal of extra stress, so I was also able to relate it back to that. So that was good.
Yeah.
And then being able to kind of usher our daughter past it as well, giving her heads up, this is what it's going to look like, helping her, give her strategies on how to manage and cope. I didn't know I had those skills, but apparently I do.
You do. You do. And, I was never one to believe in totally shielding your children from everything. I don't think you need to show them everything either.
Yeah, agreed.
But they need to see reality, right? And the reality is, mommy cries sometimes. Mommy is upset. Mommy gets sad. And to the point, sometimes she'll even ask me, Mommy, are you feeling okay? Or she'll say, when I'm really tired, or she may perceive it as me being in a mood. She'll say, are you feeling okay? She'll ask, are you tired? She'll try to assess where I am, which, I appreciate. But, I had to tell her, sometimes adult problems are really complicated. You don't have to worry about it right now, but just know that sometimes adult problems are really complicated, and it's hard for mommy, and it's hard for daddies, and other people as well. And I still to this day struggle with anxiety, but it is way better, y'all.
Yeah.
Between therapy and
really
supplements hard. And meditation,
getting back to
exercising, it's so much better. I can even recognize if something's going to cause me anxiety. I sometimes can recognize when other people are feeling anxious. it's so much better. So what shifts, if any, did you see in in yourself or the relationship?
Ooh,
What did you notice?
I noticed some shifts. So shift in myself. I became more patient for some things and way less patient for others. So
Okay.
like before, my patience was a little bit more evenly distributed, whereas my patience after was a lot less evenly distributed. But I think more evenly distributed for the places you needed me to be strong in versus just kind of everywhere, which was actually kind of good for me because it allowed me to put my efforts where they would actually do good and not just kind of do stuff. You know, like for example, she's the type of woman who, if she can come home and the place is in order, she's more in order. So like coming home and making sure the place was straight for her to just kind of walk in and walk into ease was work on my part for some things, but worth it in the end. Because on the days that she struggled the most, she also was able to come home to a relatively in order home. So she can go straight upstairs, kind of calm down from the day, take a shower and come down a little bit. And then when she rejoined us, she was a lot more with it. And that was good. But then I also had to learn that when you are in a place of raised anxiety, you clean like a madwoman and you'll find things to clean that didn't need cleaning, and
It's
all
true.
of a sudden you're cleaning everything.
It's true.
And I'm sitting there on the couch and I look up and she's vacuuming and then she's washing the dishes and she's folding clothes and I'm like, ooh, okay, something's up. Something's up. But I don't feel the need to jump up and then start doing stuff too or anything. I just feel the need to go, you okay? Should we sit and talk? Come here. I poured a drink for you. Let's sit and talk.
And for me, I know it's different for a lot of people, but for me in particular, my anxiety it wasn't stemmed from anything particular. So sometimes a situation would happen or somebody would say something, or mostly I would read something on social media and that triggered anxiety, especially if somebody died. It's like, oh my God, how am I going to deal with this? Like what? Like, and then I go down that whole death spiral again, and not even just for me, but the people I love, my parents, and so I'd read something on social media and it will throw me into this anxious place, I was just anxious, and he'll ask, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm fine. I'm just anxious. I don't know why. I just feel anxious. Maybe time of the month, lack of sleep." And diet, all of it.
And it really was that. It was like we'd be having a good time and then anxiety.
Right. And I'm sure all of it, sometimes it's unexplainable, right? I can't say, okay, this is what triggered it. I'm better at that now. But even then, sometimes it's like, I just feel anxious right now. And I don't know what to say, or I don't know what to do. I just feel anxious. Do you feel like you've ever struggled with anxiety?
Yeah, I did. And it was one of those things where for me, it's more moment to moment. But I had a period in my life dealing with my dad, and I think we spoke about this on a previous podcast, but dealing with my dad that really caused me a lot of anxiety. And it was a time where we thought we were going to lose him. And that was... Yeah. And when we didn't lose him, it was a blessing, but he became my responsibility. And that was a whole new set of frustrations and wins and losses and anxiety on the whole that just kind of, like I said, I had to seek empathy, right? So that was another key point in me having a lot of empathy for this scenario, and it wasn't that I didn't have love for it before or heart for it before, but having empathy for something is to have a connection with it, that it's real. Mm-hmm. That's not oh, but more like, no, I felt that one. Like, I know what that's like. I've been there. That I've been there energy, is kind of what I found. So, no, I mean, I've suffered with a little bit of anxiety before, but not to the extent that you have.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've gained some skills along the way. So that's a good thing.
It's a good
thing.
Yeah. I think it's very difficult. And this is very challenging in relationships, y'all, when you experience your spouse or your partner in a state that you've never seen them before, right? And so I've never ever known my husband to be anxious for anything, right? He's just pretty chill, calm, and I remember when he got to one of his really anxious moments, it was like, wait, what is going on here? Right? And we can describe it as anger, anxiety, probably in his situation, I'm not going to speak, it could be used interchangeably, but the point is, I've never experienced him in that light. I guess it wouldn't be light at that point, but I've never experienced, I've never experienced him that way. And so it was very hard to navigate, and if you're not careful, these can really put serious dents in your relationship, because here you are, this person that you've known, that you've loved, that you've had so many great memories with, is now this person and he told me, he's like, I used to be able to pinpoint what you're going to do next or what you're going to say, and he got to the point where he couldn't do that. He didn't know.
Yeah, that was wild.
He was losing knowing who I was, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're becoming like almost a different person.
And it's a scary process, because you have to ask yourself, okay, is this a time? Is this gonna change? Who are you going to be on the other side of this, right? These are some of the questions that I know we've talked about, and so I can, speak. I can speak on it. Who are you going to be on the other side of this? Is this just something you're going through? Is this who you're going to be in perpetuity? Like, what does our life look like?
Yeah.
Not only in the moment, but after. And these are a lot of questions that you have to ask yourself. And you don't want to get too bogged down with those questions, because you don't really know. You just sometimes really have to just take it moment by moment, day by day. And like I always say, I know it sounds cliche, but that's really what it was, because I barely understood what was happening to me. So if I didn't understand, how was he going to know?
Like, right? I knew.
He knew, because he even said, I think you're having anxiety.
Yeah, I could say that, and I can look at you and go, yeah, this is anxious.
And I'm like,
if she doesn't hear it and internalize it,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was convinced that something else was wrong, and so I said, okay, so here's what we'll do: we'll make a list, and we'll take care of all the medical things first. We went to all the doctors for all the things that was on the list. And we just crossed things out one by one. Healthy heart, healthy lungs, healthy blood, healthy bones.
Oh, trust me, y'all, I had them all checked multiple times.
Healthy GI, healthy. So
now, mind you, I'm thinking about death and dying. So
in her mind, she about to die.
So in my mind, I'm about to die. I would walk around and be like, this is it. Every time I had a PVC, this is it. This is the moment that I just drop. I would walk around thinking I was just going to drop down and die. Like it.
I got you, baby. I got you.
It was hard, y'all.
It was a time. It was a time. And we are still working past a lot of that, but you've come a long way.
A long way.
A super long way. And I'm extremely proud of you.
Thank you, baby.
I'm extremely proud of you.
Thank you, baby.
You definitely did your thing, baby.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
You all right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, I only had one question that I kind of wanted to get off my chest.
Yeah.
And that is, when you were going through, think back to your most anxiety-ridden moment, Was it something that you felt like you could control but had no control over in the moment? Or did it feel just so completely out of control on the whole that it was more like, all right, well.
Definitely the second. I felt so out of control.
Wow.
And scared, because I would say my worst anxiety moment was one of my panic attacks, where I literally, that was the same day he took me to the doctor.
Yeah.
I woke up, I didn't eat anything, but I exercised, try to get myself right. I worked out. And then after my workout, I just felt horrible. Like I ran downstairs, I said, babe, I'm about to pass out. And he's like, okay, babe. I was like, I have a doctor's appointment in 30 minutes. I can't drive. I don't know what I'm going to do. And he's like, you need to go to the doctor. Because I was actually going to the doctor because of this. Yeah. Because I have been to the ER. So I was going to my doctors to see how I can kind of bring all of this together. I remember saying, okay, when I go, I go. At least he's here, and he would spend a lot of time in my panic attack saying, you're okay, babe, you're breathing, you're all right. Just hearing that voice reminds you that, okay, you're alive.
You're okay.
Not to laugh, but it does remind you that you're alive and you're okay. So to answer your question, babe, it was definitely, I felt like I was totally out of control of my body. I didn't understand what was happening to my body. I know there were times when I felt every vessel in my body, every nerve. Sometimes it feels like every little stick of pain I felt, and sometimes I still feel them. I'm like, I've never felt this before. And people would tell me, oh, wait till you get like 50 or 60. And I'm like, really? Is this normal? Because I don't think this is normal. Like, this is not normal. Like, I was convinced there was something wrong with me. And then you get to the point where, like he said, we made the list, checked my lungs, checked my heart, checked.
We checked.
We checked everything.
We checked.
And literally everything. I think the only thing that I didn't probably check was my brain, which I probably should have checked that.
Check it first, right?
Right. But everything was normal, and it was, I used to hate going to the doctor in the ER because I would be like, they're going to look at me and see a 39-year-old healthy woman and say, oh, she's fine. She's just, she's fine. She's healthy. And I'm like, no, there's something wrong. Just because I'm young and I don't have any major past medical history does not mean there's nothing wrong with me right now.
It's true. It doesn't mean that.
Like, why can't we?
She's right.
So, anyway, I hope, does that answer your question?
It definitely answers my question.
Let's wrap it up with this, babe. What advice would you give to a couple that is struggling? Maybe one of the individuals in the relationship is struggling with anxiety, or they're struggling with anxiety together, especially for people where this is such a new thing and they have no experience with it. What advice would you give to them?
Well, I guess the basic little bit of advice that I would give, more than anything else, is less advice and more of just kind of a mantra. This is a marathon. This is a marathon. Don't look for the quick, fast, and easy answer. The quick, fast, and easy answer might lead you to a peaceful moment, but not a peaceful existence. It's easy for people for folks, when she was going through trying to figure out what was bothering her, it's easy for folks to say, it's anxiety, go take meds. But the truth of the matter is, we had to first get her open to the possibility that anxiety could be doing this before we could get to the conversation about how to help it from this vantage point, including therapy, including getting outside and getting grounded, including a deeper spiritual walk.
There was a lot of prayers, y'all. A lot
Yeah.
of prayers.
Yeah.
Yes.
All of it.
Can't forget that. Most
including therapy.
Yeah.
Including getting the vitamins together and getting the temple right. So, I mean, there's just a lot that went into it. And so this is a marathon. Anxiety is a marathon. It's not something that you win. You got to keep going. You got to keep going. You don't get to the end and go, yay, I'm done.
Yeah.
You get to the end and go, okay, now we can walk instead of run. But we got to keep going though. We got to keep going that way. It's also made me very sensitive to my own how anxiety shows up in my life. So I'm also able to have a little empathy for myself when I'm feeling anxious and I do something silly. I don't blame it on toxic masculinity. I sometimes just go, oh, I'm just being anxious. Oh, okay. Whew, so I just need to chill out. All right, cool. No doubt. It's like that sometimes, But like I said, I think you handled your anxiety wonderfully. I know we're still going through and I know we're still working, but I'm going to say it every single time because I believe it wholeheartedly. And I know it took a lot to get you to the other side of it. So
thanks, babe.
I'm happy for you.
Thank you. Being the person who went through it, my advice to you would be, it's really, don't give this thing more weight than it already has. And so what I mean by that is you don't know what 2 weeks from now is going to look like or a month from now is going to look like. What you know is right now. Whether you're the person going through it or you're the person that is next to the person going through it. What you have is this moment. And in this moment, you feel like crying. In this moment, you feel good. In this moment, I'm anxious and I don't know why. That's all you focus on that because what I am a person who tends to try to plan for everything. And so what happens is I'm in this moment, but I'm like, oh, what's going to happen a month from now when he's tired of me crying or, I can't get up and go to work because of whatever or what, because I missed plenty of days of work too. Right. And so, but I can't give anxiety that weight, right? I just can't. It has enough power over me right now, and I can't give it all that extra power just by thinking of trying to predict what it's going to be like in the future. What I have is right now. And so for you, those of you who are struggling with anxiety, you may not know, but that's okay too. And I've had to learn how to just say exactly what it is that I'm feeling. And sometimes that is, I don't understand what I'm feeling. What I know is I feel like crying. Sometimes that is, I have to put down the phone because social media is taking me to a place
it will trigger you.
that is triggering me regularly. That's what that looks like, and that's okay. But being very honest with yourself, and when hopefully you have a partner that you trust, or a friend, or a pastor, or anybody, a parent, a sibling that you can trust, just to be honest with. Where are you right now? Constantly do assessments of yourself as much as you can, because when you're in this place, things are skewed and emotions are present and there's a lot happening in your head. And so sometimes you can't always just stop and really do a real assessment, and that's okay. But just acknowledging where you are, finding that person you trust. Our goal is for that person to be, your spouse. But finding that person you trust to talk about what you're feeling, even if you don't know what that is. So yeah, babe.
Yeah.
What do you think? Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
I only cried once, y'all.
I know, that's a blessing.
This is a blessing. Usually I can't get through the whole conversation. It's maybe because I know I have all of y'all support.
That's right.
With something that's really near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, catch us every Monday. Remember to like and follow us on all social media at 2 Average People. Like and comment, share this video with other couples who you think will be able to benefit, maybe add some value to their life and their love and their marriage, as hopefully adding value to yours.
Absolutely, y'all. Remember, marriage, love is a choice. It's not easy, but it's always worth it. See you guys next time. Peace.